Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Views from the Friend Zone podcast. I usually say happy Sunday, but hasn't been that happy of a Sunday all week. It's been very tough for that. Rest in peace, George Floyd. There's so many different rest in pieces we can discuss. The climate's really tough. I think of the great prodigy. There's a war going on outside. No man is safe from, and I just feel like we're literally up on the gates of a civil war, you know what I'm saying, between the haves and the have-not, the oppressed and the oppressors, and it's really tough, you know what I'm saying. I don't want to say it's a war, people against cops, because there's good cops out there, but at the same time, just like how we always feel like we can't let the bad apples in our community as African American represent us all. In the same token, the few bad police can represent the police all, but we have to say something. So I'm not going to post. I don't want everybody to talk. So I'm gonna have everybody introduce themselves on the panel, starting
What's
with
up, y'all? It's Open Shirt Poppy.
What's up, bro?
our guest.
Sean, welcome back.
Yes, introduce yourself, Farmer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Sean Farmer.
Yeah.
Third time back. Thank you for having me back.
No doubt, no doubt. Give us a little bit of your background for them to know why you're the perfect person to have this conversation.
Oh, that's mutual. I'm the perfect person because my book is out. It's called Becoming Blue, Understanding Police Culture. So I was a police officer. I was in law enforcement for 18 years, 12 years as a local police officer up in Westchester County. And when I was a young man, I was a military policeman for 6 years. And as you all know, now I was a mental health therapist at Rikers Island. So I wrote this book, sadly, I wrote this book in 2017, and it's very relevant now.
It's going to be
Black Lives
relevant
Matter was
for
in
a
the
long
book.
time. It's going to be relevant this year. It's going to be relevant in the next 5 years because things need to change. But I hear you, bro.
So this book was written in the aftermath of Ferguson and those issues, if you remember, 2014, 2015,
Yes.
2016. I wrote this in
Mike
2017,
Brown.
and here we are again.
Yeah. And then Cliff?
It's your boy Clip Rock Banam.
Yes, man. It's tough. It's just so tough what's going on outside, right? Like I can't condemn the people who are out here looting, but at the same time, understand that it's a call for protest, and then while we're protesting, people are looting. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to get confused, right? Because there's people out here peacefully and validly protesting, and there's people who are using the distraction of people protesting to loot. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not gonna sit there and tell the looters, "Oh, you're the worst person in the world," but I'm letting everyone out there know who's looting that you're really taking away from the movement. And the fact that they're having, policemen disguised in other gear as part of the looting crowd and the negative protesting and the quid pro quo, and there's some FBI agents. There's all kind of conspiracies going on. But the biggest thing that people also need to realize is that there are a large portion of non-minority people who are looting out there. There are some who are protesting, but there are a large portion who are looting, and the looting is getting particularly tagged to the African American and the brown people. But it's a lot of people who are not minorities taking advantage of that looting. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good point. But I think that it's important to remember that although our minds we have complex minds, although something is horrible and horrific, it can still be understandable. So we work, Mr. B and I, Von Hump and I, at Rikers Island, and I often have patients that killed their own mother. I had one patient that, no names of course, but stabbed their own mother through the brain, through the eye to the brain. And I used to, before I started working at Rikers Island, I would ask, why would oh my God, how could a person ever do that to their own mother? You know what I ask now? What did the mother do?
Wow.
And that's real. Because then you do the background and you see the abuse. turning tricks in front of the kid, all kind of people selling the kid for sex. And then you're like, oh, that's why he killed his mother. And it makes difference. So horrific acts can be understood, not justified ever, not ever justified, but understood.
And that's
black, white, whatever.
Yeah, that's a great point that you make, right? Because a lot of times, you know, when we're on social media and we hear from the other side or other people saying, oh, looting's not wrong, the way people are reacting is not right. But they never fail to take the accountability of what caused the looting, what has caused the protests, what is the catalyst to all this. They're not speaking out.
They let the looting and the rioting and violence overshadow the main point and the protest as a whole, and the people that's out there doing it for the right reason. You see what I'm saying? That's why when you mention all the people, the ops, as they say, in the midst of the protests, claiming that they doing it for, you know, all the injustices against Black people, but they're doing it to incite riots. They're doing it to give police excuses why they can then be violent. You know what I'm saying? They're tagging up walls, destroying businesses and stuff like that, because some of them are placed there to do that. And what does that then lead to? Now the president can release the authority to bring the military in. You know what I'm saying? It's a means to an end, you know? Because if it was just nothing but peaceful protests, the president and the rest, they can't have no reason to then increase their level of force or bring the military in. You see what I'm saying?
And more restrictions into our community. Cliff, what's your thoughts? You've been quiet.
The whole loitering issue is taken away from the good things and the justice that we're trying to do, and it also enhances the media to have another outlet to say, you see, that's why it happened. The thing that happened to George Floyd is justified. So you got people in disguise, you got people frustrated, and I get it, but that's not the answer. You loitering and destroying your own community instead of going outside the box and then making certain issues and justifying why are you protesting is not the answer. All you're doing is enhancing that media to say, you see what? This is the reason why what happened. You understand? The CNN, the Fox 5, all the media outlets that don't give two shits about Black people. I'm frustrated because as a Black person, I'm scared to come outside now because I don't know what I'm up against.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I stand back and I realize, I'm like, what's going on? Because now it seems like it's a every 2 month thing. Every two months, it's the same
several cases in the last 6 weeks. It's not every 2 months. You know what I'm saying?
So we look at it and like, oh, you know, I don't know the lady's name, but she's talking about, oh, this is what we're frustrated with doing this. But the whole loitering thing, you got to take a step back and say, where are you loitering at?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I have to say though, and listen, I'm not condemning the looting and the violent protesting, but they have taken it outside of our community. They destroyed Beverly Hills, they destroyed Union Square, you know what I'm saying? They destroyed a lot of Manhattan, Salt Lake City in the downtown area, Chicago, Michigan Ave. Michigan Ave is like our Fifth Avenue where we have Dior and stuff like that. They're destroying out there. But one thing that they're saying also is, and this is not coming from the mouths of African American people, these are coming from the mouths of other white people saying that when they do see the looting and the destroying of property, it's white people who are leading the cause of stealing things and looting. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that they're the lead catalyst all over the place, but a lot of times when things are being taken and things are being stolen per se, it's the distraction that they're using. Before we get into the show, another thing I want to say is there's a lot of false stories being let out there, right? So we have to take our time to like really see what's going to be the end game. One story I want to share real quick is that two stories I want to share real quick is the example of how people are using our time or our voice or our platform to do reckless stuff that's going to get pinned back to us. There was a white man in Utah right? You guys probably seen this story.
With the bow and arrow?
The news, the white man in Utah, the news came to him. He bloodied on his head and said, "Oh, you were attacked on a protest." He said, "They said, what happened to you?" He said, "I stuck my head out my car and said, 'All lives matter,' and two African American men attacked me." Then they had follow-up footage of what happened to him. The man had a bow and arrow. He was shooting at people with a bow and arrow, and then a large contingent of white people started to bash him up. Right? It was white people who was bashing him up. Majority white people who attacked him. But when he had a platform, he ignored all the white people who was beating him up and said it was two black men who did that to him. A full story, right? But when we don't get the time to get the full story, we take these 30-second news clips. You know what I'm saying? A woman in Minnesota in a wheelchair said that, oh, these leaders beat her up. Then they had footage. She was stabbing people. She was in her wheelchair, staying in the entrance, stabbing people. So then they attacked her.
Wow.
But if we only listen to that one clip, man, these people are savages. They're beating up people in a wheelchair. That woman didn't even need the wheelchair. She got up and was walking around off camera. You know what I'm saying? And I say that to say we have to have some kind of strategic planning, because if we just let the media only tell our stories, it's going to be a lot of false narratives. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to start the show. The first topic we're going to talk about is called the black tax. Everyone know that there's a saying, the black tax, that there's a certain cost to do everything when you're an African American person in this country, right? There's this extra cost to do certain things. And we've seen in the last couple of weeks, jogging, sleeping in your house, going into the park to watch birds. There's an adherent risk working out in the gym. There's an adherent risk for the police to be called for you and weaponized against you. And we're just trying to have a conversation. Why do we continue to pay the black tax in this country? So the first question is, why is being black so costly as far as life and achieving the American dream? Well, you open it up for us.
So when I get asked this question, I like to give an analogy that is, it's kind of frank and it kind of works. So if you work out, you go to work, you do physical labor, you go to the gym, and you get good and stinky and sweaty and dirty and grimy, and you go to the store, you buy some brand new clothes and some $200 perfume, cologne, you could probably cover up the stink for a while. Eventually the stink is gonna come through the new clothes, it's gonna come through the perfume, it's gonna come through the $200 cologne. Eventually the stink's gonna come through. The United States was established in white supremacy, meaning people, Europeans coming here and taking, we all know the whole history, I don't need to go down it. So the stink of racism has never been washed. You could give me a black president or a biracial president. You can give me civil rights amendments. You can, so I can go from being an animal to a lesser part of society. All the things that we were given was really perfume and clean clothes, but we never really washed the stink of white supremacy in its true meaning, not the KKK. White supremacy in its true meaning, and I always go to Dr. Clark. Your children, everybody here has children, would probably, maybe, I hope not, choose a white doll over a black doll. That's the stink of racism, and that goes for American Indians.
Way to see white is right and black is not.
Right. That's the stink that's not washed away. You can have a black president. You can all these things. You can have black millionaires and Jay-Z and K-Z, whoever. None of that washes away the stink of racism. And I don't know how that's done without destroying, reshaping what's here and destroying what we have now.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where it has to be completely broken down. This is not okay, well, we're gonna amend this, amend that, because a lot of these amendments now are just Band-Aids. There's simple ways of fixing maybe a specific problem, but the overall issue is not being addressed. You see what I'm saying? And I love that analogy that you gave, Sean, because it basically sums up what it is. It's just like you can't really say that you're correcting something that's so deeply embedded in what this
Foundation.
society is.
In our foundation.
It's gonna take a deeper commitment than just let's do this and let's do that. As deep as these roots were planted is as deep as it's gonna be to correct them. You're gonna have to dig them up there. And I don't think we haven't figured out how to do that, and really we haven't even really tried. Society as a whole.
Racism is as American pie, as in the hot dog and the French fries and all these staples that are in America. Racism is a big part of it. And the bigger issue is, right, the people who are power, the people who will make the laws, the people on top, they don't really necessarily want to see things. They're just tired of being blamed for certain things, and they're trying to change the narrative. They feel if they could change the narrative, they can make us forget. But they're not trying to give up their advantage. What do you feel, Cliff?
I mean, it pretty much said to what Sean and Open Show probably said, but it's like it's one of the situations where you got to step back and look at it and not be confused what's going on, because you know they give you a little bit so you could feel comfortable in certain issues, right? And act like you got a seat at the table. We're not at the table. This week is a prime example to realize that slavery still exists. That man murdered that black man as a slave master. He looked like a slave master when he took his life. 9 minutes. 9 minutes. I don't care what media outlet. If you have any kind of compassion, you could see this alone that racism still exists and things are never changed. This is 2020. We're going through a pandemic, and we gotta stay here as 4 black men and be scared to come outside because we don't know what we're up against.
Well,
bad cop, but it's frustrating just to know that we as a black person, we are not being heard. Let's be honest to ourselves. We are not being heard. We are not even being considered of any power of what's going on in the world. So that's
hold up, B. Let me interrupt you, please, because as a student of history, I gotta fight. I gotta take issue with that, because our grandparents, our great grandparents, and our great grandparents in 1920, just 2020. In 1920, it was different, right? In 1921, it was in Tulsa. That was next year. That's the anniversary of the Tulsa massacre.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
While I'm not, evolution is very slow. Remember that. Evolution is very slow. I'm not trying to sit here and say that everything is kumbaya because we had Barack Obama and everything in racism. Please, how dare you? What I am saying is, the same respect, our grandfathers would look at us like, yeah, it ain't 1920. Because we can't even conceptualize what that was like. In 100 years, our descendants, our great-great-grandbabies aren't going to be able to believe this crap. They're going to be like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? My great-grandfather B went through that? Or my great-great-grandfather Farmer actually lived through when they actually choked a man to death on TV, on the internet?
Yeah.
100 years from now, it's going to be unfathomable to our ancestors. I'm sorry, our descendants. It's going to be unfathomable. So what my point is, progress, and it's just what we're talking about is human evolution. We evolved from the days where you bust somebody upside the head with a rock if you like them and take them home. We slowly evolved, and this is a big step in our evolution. And sadly, riots and pain and suffering is a catalyst to evolution. So 100 years from now, I'm pretty sure, like I said, our great-great-grandbabies are going to be like, wow, they went through that. And all they had to do for the COVID virus was this, and it would have been over. That's how history is. When you look back, they could have cured the COVID virus in 2 seconds. They didn't know you just had to do this.
COVID took a back seat to racism.
Yeah.
COVID is like, yo, you can't compete with this racism thing. But what you said, Cliff, is not necessarily true about we're not being heard. They absolutely hear black people. They hear our frustrations. They hear our angers. They hear our gripes. They hear us,
I
but
don't think they care.
yeah, they don't care. You know what I'm saying? This country was founded on violence and destruction, right? And that wasn't us. We didn't do that. But yet we're seen as the more violent people, right? They try to paint us as the violent people.
Yeah.
Black people are not nearly as violent as white people. Not nearly as violent.
Let me
We're
pick.
too loving, if anything. But hold on, Mom. This
Yeah,
this
go
is
ahead.
something that stuck with me, and it confused me more than anything, because I'm like, what do we do? It was a picture of Malcolm X in his coffin. It was a picture of Martin Luther King in his coffin. I forgot what the caption was, but it basically said
They killed
violence
both of
or
them.
peace. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. They both got killed. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is, we come at you peacefully, you find a way to kill us. We come at you on some aggressive shit, you gonna find a way to kill us. But I'd rather come at some aggressive shit, because I'd rather take some of yours and have you take some of ours. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're gonna kill us anyway, then we might as well go out fighting. That's I'm on that mindset.
No, I definitely hear you. We always talk about that offline, and it's very tough. I want to piggyback on something the farmer said, right? Because that's the saddest part about all of these things, right? They systemically have redlined us and created segregation. And then when we have prosperous communities like a Tulsa, Oklahoma, even as Rosewood, Florida, remember the whole movie about Rosewood where the guy or the woman was cheating
Sure.
on her husband, but she
Massacre, Rosewood Massacre, right?
black guy who raped her, and they wind up burning through the whole town for this falsehood. It was a very prosperous African-American town. Tulsa had its own airport, had banks, had hospitals, Black Wall Street, right? And they use the guise of, oh, someone from the town raped someone to come through and burn down everything and stuff like that. And I say that to say, I think that has kind of made us not start, cherishing creating our own communities and necessarily want to get money and then move into their communities and hopefully they accept us. But I think we need to develop that mindset again. And then when we create the new Tulsa or the new Rosewood, we also create an updated version of the Black Panthers and other strong militant-based organizations that police our communities as well. Yes, we can have state-funded, city-funded police officers as well, but we need an extra second layer of security where we have, visual eyes on our community, protecting our own, right? Because the toughest thing about we're seeing with the rioting and stuff like that, another point that's kind of being once we stop rioting and once we start looting and stuff like that, Gucci, Dior, Target is going to build back. But mom and pop shop who gets destroyed, most of the time, the insurance that it takes to really build them back up is too high for them. So they wind up getting insurance just enough to cover some losses, but not to come back again. So a lot of Black small businesses that gets destroyed are never going to come back. And the point that you made, Mike, how we learn revolution from them. One of the biggest turning points of this country was the Boston Tea Party, where they took all the teas that they were being taxed from London, dumped them to the water. That's one of the signs of change of this country. So rioting and looting and things of that nature is an American-based practice. They just don't like to see it done now when they feel like, oh, it's brown people doing it. And even now, it's not really the brown people who are really necessarily leading the way.
What bugs me out, bro, at one point, going through our history and everything, I was definitely like, oh my goodness, segregation is horrible. We shouldn't be segregated. We should all be together, live as one, and have the same this, that, and third. But now that I think about it, I'm kind of conflicted. I feel like maybe segregation is a good thing, because if it was to give us our own community where we could function and thrive in, and let them have their own. You see what I'm saying? And then I mean, you're going to have problems in every community either way, but at least I feel like we would be more together as a people. Because right now, Black people's main problem is we're so divided.
Yeah.
And you will never see strength in division. So,
I'm sorry.
no, that's basically what I was just saying.
The key thing that segregation that was kind of horrible now versus how it could be a little different now is there wasn't no separate but equal, right? The key was having separate but equal. That wasn't the case. We was given deplorable conditions. We was given third-rate accommodations. I think nowadays, even though our resources aren't as great as other races, we still have enough to create acceptable separate facilities, and not necessarily separate, but I just feel like we need ownership in our things. We need ownership in the places we live. We need ownership in the hospitals that we go to. We need ownership in the stores that we shop in, grocery stores. We need ownership in the banks, so that we can have fair accommodations. You know what I'm saying? Of standards. Segregation before was like, let's give them chitlins, let's give them pig feet type shit, and that'll be theirs. We need access to this equally as good. Go ahead.
What you're saying makes great sense, but a lot of the time we are brainwashed not to support each other. Like we already got it. It's not where it's like, okay, and whatever you do, it's not like, okay, I'm gonna make $1 million. I want to see you make $1 million. I want to see Mike make $1 million. We are brainwashed not to support each other. Not just say, that's just an example in general. So a lot of the times we can't get stuff like that done because we don't care enough to be like, you know what, let's get it done and have our own community. So we don't need to go outside the box. So that's what happens. We learn to accept that, you know what, this is the way things go, and this is how it's supposed to go. And it's sad, but that's the truth. What's the reason why we don't got all our money in black banks?
Because let me tell you, we had this discussion before, right? Like I said, I have my money spread out in certain banks. I have a good portion of my savings at Carver Bank, which is a black-owned bank, but I also have money in J.P. Morgan Chase, Barclays, which are other, predominantly white-owned institutions. I think it's so hard today, and that for us to find established black brands that we quote unquote can trust, right? We even have trust issues with our own stuff that we do have, right? Because we have the stigma, or are they gonna do right by me? Is my money gonna be there if it goes bad, kind of stuff. We have to kind of develop that kind of trust in our own products, but we've been brainwashed to not think that. So it's hard. It's hard to like go get a mortgage from a black-owned bank, right? It's easy for you to walk out your door, 2 steps, Bank of America, Citibank, or Chase is right there. So when you come home from work, I know there's a Bank of America on the corner, but if you wanted to get a mortgage from Carver, you got to go 125th in Harlem, you got to go downtown Brooklyn, you got to go to Queens, or you may not live there. So we have to be able to establish, where we can get our resources, have a sort of like guideline to it, and at the same time develop that. So the question I want to ask is, at this point, it feels like we are being hunted for sport. Are we on the verge of a racial war, right? Because the way, like, we see the video of how George Floyd was killed. I don't care, and I'll let you talk because you have actual. There's no way in my conscience that officer felt his life was threatened by George Floyd.
No.
And the way that went down, it was so clear. And then another thing is, Mike, mute it while you're walking so we don't hear the feedback. Another thing that we also have to realize is that there's no accountability for the taking of the life of a black man. It's been circling around how Mike Vick got more time for killing a dog than any of the cops who've killed a black man has got combined. And that's something that just speaks volumes. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no fear when When you see these videos, you never see the cop panicking like, oh shit, what did I just do? Damn, I made a mistake. It's always these calm attitudes like business as usual. You know what I'm saying? So at this point, Farmer, you can speak to us. The question is,
Right.
like we're being hunted almost like as if it's a sport to some of these people? And do you feel like we're on a verge of a civil war between the haves and the have-nots, the oppressed and the oppressors? What do you think?
So no, I don't think it's a civil war. I think what's happening is the suffering that's gonna come from naturally, the suffering that's gonna naturally come from the disorder, meaning the racism that was never cleaned up. It was never addressed. Nobody really wants to address it, especially if you're talking about, listen, I got a nice house, I got a pretty nice life, I drive a pretty nice car, you know, I got a pretty good job, I went to school for it. Nobody really wants to turn the system upside down until. So that's the way things change. And to understand these phenomena, even the COVID or the police situations that we're going through now, you must become a student of history, because none of this is new. None of this is new, and it's, if you know how nature grows, how a tree grows, it's not new. It's slowly, we evolve from what they called us nigger on the street, right, to where we are now, to the civil rights movement, right, to where we are now, to where we're gonna be when your children and your grandchildren are our age, when we're long gone. It's all evolution, so we must remain unemotional. We must remain unemotional. And when you're unemotional, it's not easy, because we're talking about groups. Listen, if you and I are sitting here all as rational men, but we go outside in that group, whoa, that group mentality, do you understand what that does to any human? And it's been regardless of race. That's the thing I wanted to point out, and I'm not an apologist for anyone, but I'm gonna be factual, and I'm gonna use intellect and intelligence. The groupthink mentality and brutality of power. In Haiti, everybody's black. They got police brutality. It's about power. Let us not ever get it twisted. The black cop could be the worst, and then look, you're talking to an ex-black cop. I could be the worst. I could have been the worst than any of them white boys was ever. The black cop could be worse than any white cop. Am I lying? So let's not get fooled by race too much. That's about power. And as far as the race war,
but why they not doing it to white people? Why the cops aren't violating white people, whether black cop or white cop? They don't violate.
There's no such thing.
American people.
There's no such thing as a black cop or a white cop. A cop is blue.
Yeah, you're right.
And they're not violating white people because white people write letters. Y'all want to get into it. White people write letters. Black people just, when somebody dies, they might protest and burn up their own shit. White people write letters and will destroy your career and have you standing tall before the man. White people know that, white cops know that, and black cops know that. How we police on this side of town is different than how we police on this side of town. This side of town, yes, miss whatever. And on the other side of town, we putting on our black gloves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real, that's today, that's when I was a cop, that's today. I participated in that, unconsciously, I didn't know. Because there you are. I'm on this side of town, I'm on that side of town, I'm policing differently. It's
so you was conscious of that? You wasn't conscious of that?
No, at times I wasn't conscious of that. Until later, and after conscious, not always conscious of how I'm acting on one side of town and how I'm acting on the other side of town. I didn't really have that problem because I'm not going to be beating up nobody on either side of town. But that being said, if you in my book, there's excerpts of situations that black cops find themselves in that it's like, wow, awakening.
Mm-hmm.
If you go, it's awakening situations. Like, I didn't even know I thought like that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know I thought like that. Wow.
I felt like just from watching the video, going back to George Floyd.
Yeah.
One of the people that pissed me off most in that video, besides the cop with the knee, was the Asian cop standing there watching this. And
That's
at
his
times it
brother-in-law.
seemed like,
That's his
yeah,
Brother-in-law.
I found that out later, right? But even more
Right.
so than that, because at times I feel like even he was like, damn, I want to do something, but
Yes.
I can't.
can't. I
Yes.
feel like
Can't stick to the good old boy system.
Yes.
he's
Yes.
behind that blue wall of silence, and he's more fearful of what'll happen to him on that side of the fence.
Yes.
Does intervene than what these people out here getting upset, will do. And
Yeah,
that was my
Exactly. Yeah. You exactly everything you said is exactly right.
I
in fear.
I forgot what it was. I don't forgot who made this quote. It was some a famous person. I'm gonna paraphrase. It was just like, it's worse than the people who are doing the oppressing is the people who sit by idly and not watching, don't say anything when they have a chance to say something, especially of the other side, right? Because one, you don't differentiate yourself from the evil people that you look like, and two, you not saying nothing means that in some semblance you kind of just be like, well, it doesn't affect me, so I approve. You know what I'm saying? And that's the problem I have. Sometimes I speak, I have cop friends. I have white cop friends, I have black cop friends. And one of the toughest things that I hear when I speak to my white cop friends is just like, oh, you gotta understand the people that this happened to are a different class of people. You know what I'm saying? They're not like you, they're not hardworking people, educated people, and stuff like that. Regardless, this is my thing. When you see that man and you see me, you don't get it. You don't give them a chance to put out their resume for you to say,
Right.
I went to UB, I got a master's, I work at this place and stuff like that. The first thing you see is their skin and you react that way. So even though you know me and you know who I am, you able to treat me a certain way. Look at me. I got a chain on, I got a hat on, I got pods in my ear, I got a jersey. Me walking down the street, you can't differentiate me from George Floyd,
Right.
Ahmaud Aubrey, you know what I'm saying? From Mike Brown and stuff like that. I look like Mike Brown.
Or
Be my little brother or my son. What's the difference? You know what I'm saying? So
or a plainclothes black cop. You look
exactly,
just like a plainclothes black cop too.
exactly. So Cliff, you've been quiet for a while. What do you feel like we're being hunted like it's a sport? Do you think we're on the verge of civil war, racial war? What do you think?
I don't know if it's going to be a real war, because we'll do enough to the point where it's not going to take off that far, right? Like, listen, the protesting and everything else is going whatever too, but trust me, we're not going. We know better enough, and we system and we brainwashed to know that you don't kill no white man. That's just a fact. You don't kill no white person. So it ain't gonna be no easy 1, 2, 3. Because if you kill somebody, you kill a white person, not to be racist, whatever, too, boom, you want to get 1st degree murder. That cop, they gave him what? 3rd degree? They charged
him murder and 2nd degree manslaughter.
Okay, whatever. So let's call a spade a spade. He probably would do 3 to 5, if that.
Well, he's never been arrested before.
Everything's gonna be breaking down. And you follow me, you know that. 3 to 5, if that. So 3 to 5, if that. He's coming home, and there's a lot of KKK and white supremacists who owns good businesses that he'll get another good job.
He'll be head of security at a big company because he used to be a police officer, making way more money doing that than he did as a cop.
But that's what I'm talking about. He will get another good job, and life will go on after the 3 to 5 years he served. Me or you or any of us commit a crime like that, vice versa, our life and career is over. So we know to a certain extent how far to go. So it's not going to be a racist war or anything crazy that's going to go that far. We're protesting and we're standing up for us. It's a great thing, but we know how to step back and evaluate what's going on.
B, you're bringing up a good point. Let's take it to Rikers Island, okay? Let's take it to Rikers Island. And when inmates sometimes feel like they're being ignored and they're in the cell and nobody's listening to them, you know, whether that's true, that's not what we're talking about, when they feel that way. And so they have no power to do anything but what? Flood their own shit and burn up their own stuff. That's what they do. That's what they resort to because they have no other recourse. We keep talking about the racial war within the question. Mark's question is the war is already occurring. When a person is scared, right? We know this. If a bully's beating me up and I'm scared to hit the bully because of what you said, Mr. B, I'm gonna beat myself up. But I'm gonna get looked at like, you know, you see special needs kids, right? And they hurt themselves. It's the same thing. We're all human. We forget that we're all human beings. We're all human beings. Rioting, all this stuff did not come out now. This has gone on throughout history. Throughout history. In France, in every civilized society have been riots. Before America existed, there have been riots. It's human behavior. It's human behavior. It's not evolved. We're not, it's not evolved. It's very primate human behavior. When they smear shit on the walls, that's primal behavior. When you burn up your own stuff, that's primal behavior. When I can't beat you up, so I beat myself up. That's I'll cut myself or hurt myself. I want to hurt you, but I can't, so I hurt myself. That's what's going on. That's the war. But I can't go up against New York City police with no guns. Y'all allow them to use their guns. They got more than me.
That's what the people kept saying. Oh, we need more guns, and we need to be protecting ourselves. But if we're not organized the right way, we won't even get a chance to listen. The big part about how even our protests were treated different. You see all these protests, the tear gas, the rubber bullets, and stuff like that. In Michigan and other places, white people came to the courthouse with AR-15 guns, which even if you have a license to carry, you don't have a license to carry that gun on the street walking around. But they came fully armed.
And the police did nothing because they don't
being aggressive and nothing happened.
They don't want that kind of action. They don't want to let off a shot and then shots is flying everywhere. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, Sean, about the NYPD has more guns, so to speak, but they don't want to get into a shootout with a group of people who also have firearms because now their lives are really in danger.
Even with us,
just throwing the guns will be a sign that, listen, let's not take this to the next level because the next level is a shootout. So
nobody wins.
Nobody wins, right? So in that type of situation,
we won't like. Let me just say one thing. Even with us, when we legally carry and we have the right to carry and stuff like that, we don't get to the point to show that we have our license to carry. Because as soon as we reach, we're shot up. So how do I legally have a right to carry? You ask me to see ID, I go to show you the ID, and then I get shot.
Now we're talking about Philando
Castile,
yeah. But this is the thing. This is what I feel like. And I agree with you, Sean. The war is already taking place. So it's not will it lead to. It's already taking place. It's just in a different form than what you would expect. I feel like they're testing us. And it's like a child with a parent, right? I'm going to keep doing stuff just to see how much you'll let me get away with, right? The system, right, is now saying to us as Black people, we're going to keep doing stuff just to see how much we can get away with or get over with you guys. This goes back to Rodney King, maybe further back than that, but I'm going to start with Rodney King. That was, what was that, 92? I forgot what year that was.
Yeah, around
90.
Sounds right.
Those cops got off. When those cops got off, they want to see how he's going to react, right? Because it was obvious. You got video, you got all the evidence you need, and these cops still got off scot-free. And yeah, what did they do out there in LA? They rioted. You know what I mean? They acted a fool a little bit. So they was like, okay, well, they'll do that if this happens. We can handle that. That's no biggie. Then we gonna kill, have cops kill such and such, and the cop get off once again. You know what I mean? Every time they're like, well, let's see what they do. Let's see what they do. If it's something done that to the level where they feel like, okay, that's not that bad, we can handle it, it's going to keep happening again and again and again.
Can I help you out with your scenario a little bit? Because I know as you're speaking, I know what I'm saying, and I know what some people might be saying. So let me what the brother means by they is a consciousness, a daily consciousness that somebody is, I'm better than somebody because of the color of my skin, or somebody is better than me because of the color of their skin. That's a daily conscious. That leads to people getting disrespected. That leads to people's being killed. So it's not, the they is the consciousness that every day we go out thinking that somebody's skin color determines their worth, excuse me. That's who's it's not like, there's some room of they. They is real. They is every day, if you look in the mirror and go out about your day and say, that white guy is better than me, or that black guy is less than me, and it's not that clear, is it? It's deep down inside.
The day is
systematic. You get on the elevator with a black guy is not the same energy as if you get on the elevator with a white guy. That's the energy that develops people putting their knee to another man's throat till they die. That's
systematic oppression. Yeah.
It's real. It's in all of us, and that realness comes out one day in all these incidents that we see. The woman in Central Park. Talk about progression. She didn't say nigger. She said the African American. That's
threatening my life.
She said African American. I thought that was hilarious. She was politically correct in her racism.
Politically correct. You
know what I'm saying? That's only in America.
And then Mike, you jump on it too. What's funny about that is, in her mind, she was being politically correct and not racist because she said African American while being racist using the cops to call on him, right? So it was just like, okay, you had the decency enough to think to say African American and be politically correct. You racially using the police as your private.
My point was that's the they, that conscious thinking or unconscious thinking.
If we thinking about conscious thinking, even with the Central Park and the situation, these are all learned behaviors.
Right.
This is something that their parents told them this is acceptable. These are learned behaviors. You can't tell me these people, the stuff that's happening, they're going outside the box, or this is learned behavior. And I think it's not proper training of how you deal with people on a day-to-day basis. I'm not coming at all cops, but come on, this can't keep going on.
It's bigger than the cops, and that's why we can't solve it. It's bigger than that. Go to your 5-year-old. Go to your 5-year-old, your child's 5-year-old classmate, and do the Dr. Clark study. Which doll is smart? Which doll is pretty? Which doll is a good guy? Which doll is a bad guy? Go do that with a 5-year-old right now and see what they tell you. And then you'll know the status of racism. Because 5-year-olds, babies don't lie. They don't know about money. They ain't trying to make it. All they know is that's the black doll. I don't want that.
I gotta try that with my son. I'm gonna try that with my son. Yeah. I never did that test with him.
But another thing also, like you said, it's learned behavior, but it's also the stimuli of seeing how cops get away with killing black people, no repercussions, or how aggressive cops are towards black people. So that's why these white people feel like, yo, if I call the cops is gonna take care of this problem real fast. Not ask me what I did wrong or how I play into the situation. They know that they don't take time to investigate. It's an immediate reaction. It's immediate cause and response, which is the problem.
Let me touch on that real quick, Marv. The police, I've always said this when I was a police officer, and even now I'm trying to explain to people. The police is the government. It's the lowest form of government. If you want to touch the government, so to speak, if somebody, a Martian, said, what is the government? And you said, I want to show you the government, you can go show them a cop. That is the government. That's why they win in court. The government's not designed to lose against herself.
Yeah.
So the same thing occurs when a cop does something and it's caught on video now, our day and time, the government killed that man. So it's like, oh, that was one bad cop. It's bigger than one bad. And police officers know this, and no police officers know this, and they dread the day that they all dread the day that this guy put his knee on this man's neck. I used to fear riots because I didn't know whose side to be on, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I didn't know whose side I would have been on. I used to have nightmares about, I feel so bad. I used to have nightmares about being a black cop in a riot. Yeah. Wow.
See your people being brutalized by your colleagues, and you can't really call your
and
colleagues.
you know who you work with. You know who you work with. And I was a cop back when we had light blue shirts. How about that? You have blue.
So
there was no cell phone cameras.
Let me ask this last question on this topic, the black taxes. Will laws change, or must we exit the United States in the long run? And I know that sounds extreme with the Marcus Garvey kind of mentality and stuff like that. I think for a long time we feared leaving the United States because in our head, the United States was the best country in the world. It was the home of the brave, the land of the free. Freedom was for everyone. But we know that's not the case. We know it's not happening, and we know that it's not being respected. Another thing that quarantine has taught us is like, yo, even if we don't get to enjoy all the luxuries that we're used to, life goes on, right? And I say that to say, maybe if we find pockets in certain islands, pockets in Africa, pockets in places where we could live more freely as far as not being racially discriminated against. Can we find a new place? Like T.I. made a joke and said Atlanta was Wakanda, which we know Atlanta is not, you know what I'm saying? But I say that to say this, can we find somewhere else for us as people of color, black people, to live and enjoy ourselves that's not the United States? Or do we just have to wait for laws to change? What do you think, Mike?
I absolutely agree. Like anybody who's ever traveled out the country on vacation or otherwise, you have to realize like America is a great nation. I'm not gonna deny that. I'm a veteran of the country. There's a lot of good with this country. Like we're not we're not run by dictatorship, so to speak. So we do have some freedoms, even being a minority. And there's worse situations in other countries as well. But if we're gonna put it all on the table, like you can have a very successful and happy life in another nation, whether you're black, white, anything, whatever. But being black, I don't think racism, because racism it exists in other nations as well. But I just feel like either they may be addressing it more, right? Or it's a different type of racism than that which is over here in America. And the worst thing about the racism over here is it hasn't necessarily been accepted. Like there's some people who, and if I talk to somebody like this and they say something, oh, racism isn't as prevalent as it was back then, such and such. I'd be like, you're so ignorant. I was like, it definitely is. It's just taking on a different mask. You know what I'm saying?
It evolved.
It evolved into something different. But don't tell me it's not as prevalent as it was 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago. It absolutely is. It's just
they say African American now. They don't say nigga.
Oh, yeah. Oh. We've come so far. We've come so far. Like, and it's not, a lot of people, right? They don't believe that because, they're not spraying us with water hoses in the streets or sicking the dogs on us, even though President Trump said he was ready to let the dogs out. Just knows how he thinks. But it's still going on. It's still going on. All right.
If I could answer the question myself, if I could get a few of my family and friends to come with me somewhere, you know what I'm saying? If we all decide like, yo, we're gonna all try it together, I can leave the United States tomorrow. The problem is just getting that established base, right? Like if let's just say, let me just say this and then I'll let you talk, Cliff. If Wakanda was real and I got, Cliff, my peoples to come with me to there and stuff like yo, we all gonna build this pot. We already know what business we're gonna start. We're gonna do stuff like that. I'll leave tomorrow because there's nothing I experience here that's like, oh my God, I love it. Like I've traveled a lot the last couple of years, and I feel like there's nothing that the United States offer me that I can't get elsewhere anymore. You know what I'm saying? As far as me having people I love and being able to bring some money and a possible business with me. That's the problem.
That's all it's ever about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
if I put you on the moon with people you love, you be good.
I'll be good. I won't miss. Like I bring people who's gonna cook the way I want to cook. You know what I'm saying? We got cable to watch ball and shit like good. But
good. You can get satellite reception on the moon.
I think the problem is you know, it's not about leaving and what you call it. People are scared of change, so that's why we accept certain things. You understand? So like you said, if you do get a couple people together and say like, you know, like Akon, you look what Akon doing with Africa and stuff. You know what I'm saying? Pretty soon, Akon said he's moving back. You know?
Yeah, but that's where he's from. He knows
Yeah,
that 'cause that's where he's from. Yeah.
Akon is this.
But that's what I'm saying is, if you have the resources and the money and stuff that's gonna benefit you, whatever, yeah, leaving it, we have no problem. But people are scared of change. First thing somebody gonna ask you is, how are we gonna make it out there? So you know what I'm saying? All those become an issue. So that's why I'm not sure people can adapt to just leaving America like that. You understand?
Now see, I look at this question, and I'm the old man of the group, okay? But I look at this question a little differently. And you know, the way I look at it is I got blood in this game, bro. My granddaddy blood in this country. My family's fought. This is my country. It's an abusive mother. It's like having a mother that beats you, but it's still my mother. And that's the way I know. I might be called an uncle, whatever, or whatever. Listen, I'm gonna stay. I'm gonna have patience. Listen, they're calling us African American. Maybe one day racism will end. I'm trying to be funny, but I'm not going anywhere. You know, and if you stick with the analogy of the abusive mother, okay, or the imperfect parent, the pops that comes around, all right. Oh, this cat's drunk again, having a drunk, you know, you right? You still love your pops, but you're like, damn. You still love your mother, but you're like, damn. It's still my mother, but that's kind of how my relationship was with America. It's my country, man. My grandfather fought here. My father fought here. I'm American Indian, I'm Native American. I got Native American blood in my veins. You know what I mean? As well as black West African blood.
But when do we say enough is enough with the PTSD? Like, America has given us more than their ass to kiss. We get beat up, we get destroyed, and then we start saying, well, you know what? Things are going to change. We're like a battered woman who's staying with the husband because, right? We just don't know what else is different. We don't want to disrupt what we've been comfortable with. But how can we remain comfortable in this country being treated that way? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I watched Insecure this past Sunday, and then one of the actresses, she's at Cancun, a white couple in front of her goes up to the cabana or whatever, asks for a towel, they get the towel, they leave. She goes up, I need a towel, and the person goes, well, I need to see your key card. And she's like, no, I'm staying here. She's like, yeah, but I need the key card to verify. But she's like, the people before you didn't show you a key card. She's like, ma'am, I don't know what you're accusing me of, but I just need a key card. And I say that to say, in America, that's the black tax, right?
Yes.
Everything we do, like, there's been times when I was working, you know, I'm no longer there. I was working at JP Morgan Chase, and I get up to my floor, and sometimes the white people I'm on the elevator with, they're looking at me to like, am I coming on the floor with them? And I'm like, I work here just like you work here. Why do I gotta prove that I belong on this floor? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did I get into the building where you have to show ID and stuff like that? Get up to the floor to not belong? Like, why do I have to go through that extra step to just be a normal person working at the place?
The black tax.
America is to us. Everything
It's the black tax.
Extra. We even the places where we living at, sometimes our neighbors, when we're coming into the building, are like, oh, you live here? The same way that you live here, I live here too. Why do I have to prove that I live here? And that's what it is.
So what you're dealing with, what we're dealing with is the disease, right? We're dealing with the results of the disease of racism, which is a sickness of thinking that pigmentation, white supremacy, like, means something, that life is not important because of somebody's pigmentation. That's what we're dealing with. How we can deal with that, how we must deal with it, right? After this conversation is over, after this group is over, how we must deal with it is to remember our parents, bro, and our grandparents and our you gotta go, we as Black Americans gotta go back and sit down and have a conversation with your ancestors and say, look what I'm doing, and say, listen, stick to it. stick to it, because it's not, I joke about African American instead of nigger. It's not, think about when Obama was elected. My mother is 80 years old. I remember the look on her face. She never thought that we'd have a black first lady, right? And black, listen, and I know it's kumbaya. I'm not being kumbaya, I'm being real. Progress is slow. I have a bonsai tree that's 2 years old. It's this big. Progress is slow, man. And I know that I sound like one of those people in the 60s who was like, well, don't march. I'm saying all the stuff that you see, the burning, the looting, the knee on the neck, all of that is a result of the consciousness, and it's natural. I don't fight any of it. Some of the stuff I don't like, I don't fight it. I don't comment on it. I don't encourage it. I look at it and I observe it and I understand it as a scientist of what it is. This is how humans react. So my point is, go back to your ancestors, even in Haiti, go back to your ancestors in the islands, whatever island you may or may not be from, and sit down and have a conversation with them and understand what they went through, and then say, okay, well, it's getting better, and know that it's going to be better for your kids, and it's going to be better for your grandkids. It's going to be better. It sucks right now, though.
Just, and I agree with what our ancestors been through. To watch what they go through and what they've been through, the way they sacrifices for their lives, for us to have, right, like they didn't have access to resources the way that we do now, right? They weren't educated as us. They couldn't pick up the phone and figure out anything.
The phone is evolution.
Anything that I want to do, realistically, outside of brain surgery or something crazy like that, there's something on YouTube I can figure it out. You know what I'm saying? It's about the effort and the collaboration. I say that to say this. We've been running our heads through walls for so long in America just to be accepted, just to have equal, right? And this is the crazy shit that I don't get what America is not acknowledging. We're not asking for special treatment. I want to be able to say every time I run into a cop, he treats me like my taxes paying his salary, the way he treats his salary, taxes paying taxes. You know what I'm saying? I want, when he pulls me over and gives me a ticket, he pulled me over because I was doing something wrong, not because he felt, well, you know what? I don't understand why he's here. That's the kind of shit we're fighting for, and we can't get.
Brother, I hear you. I hear your frustration. I'm gonna give you something, not but and, because I'm not disagreeing with you. I got a ticket the other day. I really didn't, babe. If my wife is listening, I didn't really get a ticket. I'm just joking. No. Well, you could get a ticket now in the mail, right? It wasn't no cop that pulled you over. A robot said your vehicle registration, blah, 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 is doing 80, and you get sent you a ticket to your house. That's evolution. The cell phone is evolution. Humans made this. As we evolve, our technology evolves, all these things are coming up.
But the
racism in America, that cell phone that we have is the reason why this consciousness is rising up as we speak. The incident down south with the kid being lynched by the rednecks on the pickup truck, the cop with the knee in the neck, that's all cell phones. Cell phones come from human evolution. As we evolve as humans, these race issues are gonna go, for our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, it's not gonna be the same. I'm not gonna say they're gonna go away. I'm not gonna be here in 100 years.
That's a hope. That's not.
I'm not gonna, but I'm just going, it's a hope for this by the past.
Yeah.
I'm using the past as my criteria though, because this is not, as effed up as things are right now, as horrible as things are right now, please don't disrespect and say it's 1920, because 1920, shit, that cop would have got an accommodation.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
He would have been the chief of police.
That's true.
If you read my book, shameless plug, go to Facebook, becomingblue.com, Facebook, Becoming Blue, Understanding Police Culture. If you read my book, it talks about how cops like that are heroes because they're not afraid of certain communities. Cops like that are tough guys. Other cops look up to them. I talk about all that in my book, Becoming Blue, Understanding Police Culture. Go to my Facebook page.
Go check that out. You know what I'm saying? Especially in this time, we need to understand
check it out.
You know what I'm saying? The psychology. I guess I guess one of the 48 laws of power, whatever, is just like to defeat your enemy, you have to understand your enemy. You have to learn.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? You got to understand the mentality and stuff like that. The problem is, it's like even like Mike mentioned, the
He may
war,
not be your enemy.
blue wall. Sometimes it's just like, even when someone is not necessarily your enemy, they go against their own self-beliefs to belong to that group. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And that's something that we have to break. Like, I feel
Well,
like there's no reward for a cop to say, you know what, I'm standing up to my fellow cops, wrong is wrong. There's no reward for that. There's no, you know what, he was brave. There's just a, man, you messing it up for everybody. Not
there's
everybody.
punishment for that.
You know what I'm saying?
There's
So,
punishment for that, and that's not gonna that's not gonna happen in the police culture, which is a very strong culture.
I wonder if those other three officers who were there on the scene now regret not taking that man's knee off George Floyd's neck,
yeah.
because now they have no job. So I wonder, because it's not a necessary fact that they do regret it. You know what I mean? Because if that's their behavior, that's their behavior.
But you know why, Mike? You know why? Listen, you know why they don't regret it? Because, like I said, it goes back to learned behavior. In the police force, they're taught to stick together. So we look at it like, you wonder if they regret it. But they're going by what the academy taught them is, even if it's wrong, justify that it's right, and we talk about it later. Maybe they felt that this issue was wrong. So they don't regret anything. They're just probably shocked that they got in trouble for it now.
That would come after the academy, B.
That's the concept, right, Farmer? Even that's the concept, even at Rikers. Farmer.
Yeah. That would come after the academy.
Don't disagree with each other in front of
Listen,
the
no.
law enforcement has a strict code,
you don't disagree with each other in front of the inmate, even if that correctional officer is wrong.
Marriage too, right? You don't argue in the public. You kind of take that shit behind the scenes.
But you wait to challenge it at the proper time, or we write it up when behind the scene that why was the issue not right. But we don't disagree. The three other people, they look like, you could tell that's an OG that put his foot on the neck. And those other three officers like, we're not going against the OG.
He probably runs side jobs. I think he ran a side job, a bar. That black guy he killed was a bouncer, wasn't he?
They worked together.
And the thing about it is their shifts
probably knew Joy. He probably knew Joy.
They work different shifts, but you know how it is. Everybody here has been worked a job where you were supposed to get off at 5, but you wind up leaving 5:30, 6 o'clock, etc. They've had to overlap at least once or twice in the span.
So the behavior is they're not looking at it like they did anything wrong, because this is what they was taught.
Yeah, but at what point do you say, okay, it's getting too bad, I have to step in? You see what I'm saying? I have to.
Even you, Cliff, even Mike. Sometimes I sit there and I listen to y'all, and y'all tell me whatever y'all want to tell me and shit like that. But sometimes y'all tell me some shit and I'm like, yo, bro, you were wrong for that. You shouldn't have did it that way, son.
Right,
like you have to check. Even people you love, you have to check, right? Because it's just like at the same time, no matter what, it's just like, yo, I'm gonna support you, but like, yo, wrong is wrong. Think about it. Oh, they didn't even have to make his look bad. All they had to do was tap him on the shoulder. Yo, come on. All right, let's go. You made your point. Pull him off. That's what. You went against a cop.
More. That fear of going outside of the box when you are committed.
Alpha male.
With that fear of going outside of the box when you are committed to what is called the police force or whatever gang you will call you part of. A blood is not gonna tell another blood, yo, you wrong in front of when he goes defending against a crip. But after he probably like, yo, you was bugging out, you started something. You understand what I'm saying? So they are trained this way to learn that, you know what? They know that 100% that was wrong, but they're not gonna go outside the box. That, especially not in front of a civilian. Not in front of a civilian. You don't do that. That's a no-no. If I'm in my line.
Right. No, again, shameless plug number 15. In my book, I explain why that comes about. That's good in that. There's reasons why they have that loyalty. Trust me. It's not all. It comes from, like most things, it's something good developed into something negative.
Yeah.
Because that loyalty is important If me and you are on a job, we'll argue in the car. We don't argue in front of these people on a normal job. But see how that translates something positive into something negative. And I talk about that in the police culture. But yes, sticking together is a big part of it. When your life is on the line, when my life is on your line, it doesn't even matter if I like you or not. All that stuff is mixed up in it. That's the good part of it. That's the good part of police culture. Some of it comes, but it comes out bad in situations like this.
We're gonna leave this topic, so I'm gonna re-ask the question one time. Everybody, 30 seconds, answer yes or no, and why you feel that way. Will laws change because of what's going on now? Yes or no? Starting with you, Mike.
Damn, that's a hard question. I believe so. I believe on a micro level, because they always give just a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just a little bit. So I believe laws, and it may be in a way of procedure, which I've heard different things from different cops, that using a knee in the back is acceptable practice, but not a knee in the neck. So I don't know what the law may be or what may come from this, but I believe there will be some type of new law in place, because the politician is going to take the opportunity to say, hey, I'm putting this up for, to be voted on.
Yeah, we're in a big election.
Exactly. So a politician is like, this is a great opportunity for me to shine by introducing this bill, introducing this law, and to get these voters to vote for me. So, and it may pass or what have you. So I believe there will be.
Let me piggyback on what you're trying to say, because Farmer, we're gonna have you answer that next. But the only reason why those officers was fired in Minnesota, because in 2016 a law was put in that if you see a cop use
excessive force
and you don't intervene, that officer as well as the officers who watch are fired. So that's the only reason why the other three got fired too. It wasn't because they felt that they was equally guilty. When we find out that some of them don't get no charges or they get off, we're gonna lose our shit. They only got fired because of that law. So it was the slight tweak of certain law, and they put that in after the whole stuff. That's a Minnesota law. That's not a that's a Minnesota law. So go ahead.
So I'll jump right off of that point to prove my point that evolution is taking place. The cell phone in and of itself, that law being done in 2016 after Ferguson, if you slowly, patience, the patience of an old man, the patience of an old tree, you see the winds of change slowly changing. Things like this come up and they spur change faster, but it's still going to be slow.
Yeah.
Now,
I feel like we have to wait for change more so than the other side have to feel like they have to change. You know what I'm saying? They could move their feet about it while we die waiting for that change. That's my beef.
Yeah, well, that's the reality of it. The reality of it is it's so slow. In my lifetime, will white supremacy end and will people see each other as human beings? No. Honestly, we're not evolved that fast. I don't think it's going to happen. I believe that the human race, I believe that human beings will evolve past where your ancestors were on the, in relation to the sun. Race and skin color don't matter. One day, as a whole, on a mass level, we will see that. So yes, laws will, to answer the question, laws will change. Will they make a great big difference? No, but they will make little differences. Okay. And again, evolution is slow, but we are evolving.
I agree with you. Cliff, what do you think?
I think laws will train, and I also think I think they'll do special training for officers now, because now I think they'll do special trainings where they gotta train them to understand what racism is. Because if you put two cops in Brownsville or 40 projects and they just fresh out of the academy and they white and they only been around white people their whole lives, they're gonna react. They're gonna react soon as they feel like something is out of control. They're gonna react and react to violence because they don't know. They don't know. So I think special training is gonna come about and the laws will change. Definitely, 100%.
So I'll close it out. I think the laws are going to change, but my caveat is it's not going to change because America has developed a conscience. I just think America sees that, you know what, economically, we can't keep if these riots and this kind of destruction happens every time this happens and it's happening too soon enough, economically is going to be too much of a burden on people, on the government and the rich people to continue to rebuild what's being destroyed, especially when it's outside of the community that they care about more so when it comes into their community. So I
The
think
reasoning doesn't even matter as
yeah.
long as it changes.
So I don't think America's going to develop a conscience, but I feel like because of economics, because they want to get back to business, they'll pass a law to make us feel like, you know what, here, we gave you a bone, stop destroying shit, we want to get back to making money. Just like they're opening up America back again, not because we developed some kind of protocol for Corona, because you see motherfuckers are still Coronaing all over the place, right? People are having pool parties when we haven't discovered, you know, if social distancing is working or not, stuff like that. So it's more so they want to get back to making money. They want the money to start back flowing again. So that's why we're opening back up. Not because necessarily we care how many people are being affected for Corona or that it's done now. So we're going to move on to the next topic. The next topic is virtual life. Can we continue the way that we're going forward, right? Because it's only been 10 weeks since we shut down, but a lot of things that are part of our everyday life, every week life, we haven't been doing. And like I said, we're still here, right? Like, for instance, I can't see myself, even when we quote unquote open back up, going into a mall and just chilling, walking around, people who's coughing, you know, all kind. Because we used to ignore germs, for lack of a better word, and now it's just like, you know, I don't need everybody in my face. So movie theaters, the mall, sporting events, all things kind of change. We're no longer is our normal. So our question is, can we go forward with adapting to not having that in our life? First question is, malls, movie theaters, bars, sporting events, clubs won't recover in entirety for years to come. Are we okay with that, right? Because it's not like in September it's going to be like the bars open up again and everybody's going to be come in. There's going to be new normals, right? Where it's just like, okay, you know what? Our capacity used to be 300. Now we can only have 100, where everybody has to be 6 to 8 feet away from each other. Or there's going to be a glass around the bartender. You order your drink and he slips the glass through and you slip the money through. It's going to change. So are we ready for that? Can we adapt to that? What do you think, Cliff?
I think we could adapt to it. It's just who you are as a person, right? Even with this pandemic, if you're taking it serious, then you understand the magnitude of what's going on. But if you're a person that don't give a fuck, you're just gonna keep living your life. You know, funny thing about it is I was talking to one of the correction officers that I work with, and then I was like, "Yo, you traveling right now?" And he was like, "I ain't sick. This ain't got nothing to do with me. Of course I'm traveling." And I was just like,
that's the invincible complex that people have.
After that, the conversation was pretty much over for me, because I was like, all right, he's not there yet. He's a little young too, but I was like, all right, he's not there yet. So it just all depends what kind of person you are, and you adapt, you know?
What do you think, Farmer?
Yeah, I think it's kind of exciting what's going to happen. I heard some rumors that they're going to start bringing back drive-in movies.
Yeah.
Where you pull up with your own whip, with your girl, and you all watch the movie in the car. Concerts like that. Yeah. Drones delivering drinks. What else did I hear? What do you call it? You know, the virtual technology getting better.
Yeah.
So like right now, we'll be literally holograms in a room talking.
Yeah.
I can see walk around your house.
That's Avengers shit. They be doing that in the superhero movies. I like
that stuff. The necessity is a mother of invention.
Yeah.
So right now, I'd be in a hologram. You could walk me around your whole house. And I'm sitting here.
People are selling their house virtually. Virtual
Right.
people's house. They get on a Zoom like this and they walk through everything. I'm like,
now imagine 10 years when it's Zoom, or 5 years when this is on the next level, and I can do everything except touch and feel. I can see every room as you see it. You could turn around, I can see you holograms. So so there's a lot of excitement for the technology part of of what's going to come from this. And I also believe that we're going to go back to our way of life, because I believe that we're going to have stricter shutdowns on these wet markets, and more vaccinations are going to come through eventually, because they don't want to shut, like you said, to go back to your point, it's not about life. Unfortunately, we haven't evolved to the point that we understand that money is not worth, no gold is worth more than life. Unfortunately, we think the opposite. So they're going to come up with a vaccine because there's too much money being lost, not because too many lives are being lost.
okay.
I think we will go back to a little bit of sense of normalcy. It's like Corona has taken a back seat to this whole thing. And you don't see no social distancing or nothing like that at these protests. Yeah, people's out there with their masks and stuff, but that just could be just because they don't want you to see their face. You know what I'm saying? I don't think anybody worried about Corona out there protesting.
A lot of people who aren't really protesting for the movement are hiding behind masks to cause distraction. All right, so we're trying to end the show in the next 3 minutes, so I'm going to ask the last question, a sub-combination of the virtual living and stuff like that. And then everybody give their 30-second answer, and then we'll give Farmer a chance to like shout out what he got going on. Plug that book one more time.
Becoming Blue, Understanding Police Culture.
Yeah, all right. So
Facebook.com, baby.
The question is, right? 2 questions for this. Social distancing, will it change the way people are intimate and sexual habits as far as their being promiscuous? And also, would it make people take a longer time before they decide to have sex? What do you think? Huh?
I think it does. It won't change. Like, if you sexually active, whatever, or you want it, you're gonna go for it regardless. You're not gonna have that conscience to be like, oh yeah, let me chill out. This nigga still fucking regular. Don't care about no corona, nothing, and whatever too. If you a dude that don't like to use condoms, you're not gonna be like, yo, I'm gonna use condoms down too. There's niggas that have been raw dogging since they was 13 years old and they never used condoms. That's just what it is.
Since the Magic Johnson press conference, niggas don't care.
All right, so what about you, Farmer? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, because you know where I go. I always go to human behavior with primates and monkeys. We're gonna have sex. Period. So that part, and it's very good. The reason why, and this is the reason why we eat and we have sex, is because they both feel good. Yeah. Thank God, because if food didn't taste so good, I wouldn't eat it, and if sex didn't feel so good, we probably wouldn't have it, because it's like disgusting. I'm gonna share my juices with this woman's juices, and it's gonna. If it didn't feel so good, it's pretty nasty. Yeah. But it feels so good that we're gonna keep doing it.
Yeah.
We're gonna keep doing it.
Mike?
What's that?
What do you think about that? You think
I'm on the same page as Cliff. Like, yeah, I think this is people are just their inherent natural behavior is going to continue to show. You know what I'm saying?
To be honest, I kind of take a step back from you guys. Like, I think, don't get it twisted, people are still going to want to get it in, but I feel like the whole being kind of conscious of germs and stuff, it's a population of us going to be like, yo, I'm still going to go out there and smash, but I'm going to be a little more selective. I'm going to be more like, I'm taking more of a risk kind of stuff like that. I think it's going to change people, because think about it. You run up on, let's just say you walking down the street, you see a bad shorty and stuff like that. You go to holler at her and she start coughing. You finishing that hollering or you keeping it moving?
Depends on how bad she is.
Hey, you don't think twice about it. You know what I'm saying?
No, Marv, but you're forgetting technology. If you're forgetting technology, in 10 years or 5, as we go on, I'm gonna be able to look on her Instagram and see her status. COVID-free, AIDS-free. It'll be right there.
Right there.
All right, so we gonna end.
Zuckerberg's gonna be like, well, that's good. If you want to disclose your medical, and it's okay, and everybody on
Hopefully there'll be a
Instagram.
feel for some of this stuff, but I think for in the immediate run, while we open up again, I think people are gonna be a little bit more selective. I have faith.
Yeah,
People
I hope so.
what they're gonna do, but a little bit more selective to slow things down. But that's the end of another good episode. Thank you guys for coming through. Our studio has opened up again, so maybe the next couple of weeks you might see us back in the studio. We haven't decided that yet, but starting with Cliff, everybody do their shout out so we can end it.
There's shout out to everybody, who's protesting properly. Don't let the media influence you to do the wrong thing just because of situation. Every cop is not a bad cop. But what I'm saying is just be careful out there and respect others and try to deflect what the media is giving us. They're giving us a bunch of garbage right now.
What about you, Mike?
Just love everybody who continue to support us, man. We're gonna continue to talk about and discuss these things because it's something that has to be discussed, and that's the only way real change is gonna come, man. We're not gonna fall asleep on this, and hopefully that we see some changes take place, however they may be. Like Farmer said, it's a slow process, evolution, but change does come, and it only comes when we are consistent and concise. We got to know what we out there protesting for and where we trying to get to. So, everybody stay safe, man. Love is love.
Farmer,
Yes, thank you for having me. Please, everyone, go out to Facebook. Go to Facebook. Read my book, Becoming Blue, Understanding Police Culture. There's a Facebook page. Go there. If you inbox me, I'll give you, the book will be in print in 6 months. I'll send you a signed copy. You can pre-order now. You can go on the Facebook site, Becoming Blue, and read snippets from the book. All these topics will be discussed. It's right down the middle. It's not cop friendly. It's not against police. It's not for police. It's down the middle from an ex-cop who did it. Understanding police culture. So you understand why cops think the way they think. Thank you for having me.
Cool. Well, I'm gonna close it out like everybody said. Go out there, be safe. Understand why you protesting. Understand that the goal is to make America uncomfortable to change, but not to further put fear in America's heads. We got to find a way to make our voices be heard, to make people uncomfortable, but at the same time, destroy fear, destroy hate, destroy racism. We out. Peace. Views from the Friend Zone. Love you guys.
All right.